a TV show on the Nashville network called You Can Be a Star.
I remember.
And it was essentially the kind of first American Idol. And so my parents drove to Branson, and I took a day off, or maybe it was the day I didn't have a show. We drove to Nashville. I did the audition. Didn't make it. And that's a whole nother set of lessons in and of itself. But we had an hour, and we drove to downtown Nashville, and the Ryman. We wanted to go see the Ryman. We go up to the door, and the doors are closed, and they're not doing tours. And I was like, oh, shoot, I really wanted to see the Ryman. So I walked around to the back alley, and there was a janitor back there. And I said, I'm from Kansas, and I really want to see inside. And he was like, yeah, I'll let you in here. So he let my mom and my dad and I in there. He let us in there. Objective case, sorry. You can cut that. I just nominative case.
I saw it. I was like, wow, all the people.
I know.
Never saw that one coming.
How embarrassing. Now I'm embarrassed. Yeah. We get inside the Ryman, and we're standing kind of looking at the stage. We're in that middle aisle, maybe at row 25. And there's that microphone stand that says WSM Grand Ole Opry. And my parents said, go up there, get up there, go up there, we'll take your picture. I was like, oh, okay. So I walked up there, and they said, sing something. And I said, no. And they said, why not? Because I'm not shy. And I said, I don't want to sing on the Grand Ole Opry stage until it's real. And a few months after that, I would move to Nashville. And a few months after that, September 16th of 1989.
My birthday.
Yeah. I sang on the Grand Ole Opry, the big stage of the Grand Ole Opry. I sang You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man and Blue Moon of Kentucky. And behind me sat Mr. Acuff. And I did it. And I knew not to spoil. After. Yeah. So after I played the Opry for the first time in 1989, I without a record deal, I was playing the Opry quite a bit. And then I became Porter Wagner's, as he called it, girl singer. And so I was at the Opry all the time. And then when I signed my first major label deals, Polygram, Polydor, A&M, whatever they're called, they were called at that time, I actually had record label folks tell me to stop talking about the Opry so much in interviews because it was pigeonholing me into a throwback kind of niche thing. And if you want to get on commercial country radio, you can't be that because no one was doing that. And I did it. And thank you for seeing that and reflecting on that. And I never took my eye off the Opry wasn't. People weren't playing it back then. New artists weren't.
Right.
And I don't even know how many times. And then when I got signed at Universal, I continued to do it. And there was a moment in I think the early 2000s that there was a rumor going around that I was about to be named as the next member. And it was exciting. It was exciting because I knew I was worthy of it. So it wasn't like, oh, that could never happen. I thought it's probably going to happen. I've spent I was on the road all the time. And if I had a Saturday night, I would go out and do the Opry and champion the Opry. And so I wasn't obviously named as that next artist. And then when I came out of the closet, those invitations to play, I know that the Opry Institution, they want to, there's a lot that happened, but those invitations didn't happen anymore. And I had to rewire myself because I was so disappointed that after I came out, I wasn't super surprised that they didn't throw a ticker tape parade for me at the Opry, but I thought I would be invited back.
Well, you up to that point, you never thought you would be unwelcome there. Did it feel like you were unwelcome?
Yes. In that if there's a consistent pattern of every time I have a record out or have something that I'm out there working on the road, if every time my manager received a call, hey, when's Shelley going to come back out? You see, she's doing this. We'd love her to come do this new song. I know she's got the Reading, Writing, and Rhythm event or whatever. They have her, would love to have her come out. All of that happened very consistently pre-record deal and during record deals. since 1989, and then I came out in 2010, and the phone never rang again. So to what extent that felt purposeful or exclusive, not inclusive, yeah, it hurt my feelings. And
Sure.
and then I had, for years, I waited for that invitation. There was even like this big petition online that the Opry thought I started. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, my manager was like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And they were like, shut that petition down. The petition was invite Shelley back to the Opry.
It was organic.
It was organic, and it just kind of fizzled out. I mean, it had a lot of signatures, but it really upset the Opry. And yet they didn't say, well, let's fix that. Let's shut this thing down. Come do the Opry. That didn't happen. And so I had rewired my expectation because I knew it was never going to happen. And I had to kind of fall out of love with the Opry, which was really hard to do for a kid who had, since 1974, was obsessed with the Grand Ole Opry. And
did you ever have an opportunity to have a conversation with anybody there about it?
I didn't. My manager was fielding some calls.
To this day, you've never run into somebody who was there back then and said,
Yeah. So making myself fall out of love, I will never play the Opry again, is what I had to tell myself as a protective measure. And then in 2019, I live in New York, and I have since 2008. I was making dinner for my boys and washing dishes, and my text popped up, and it was Russell, my manager. And he said, hey, kind of oddball, out of left field, Gina from the Opry, Gina Keltner, who is now the new head of the Opry, wants to know if you'd like to come play the Opry. And I dried my hands and said, would love to. I don't, just like that. And he said, give me your dates. And I said, I'll actually be there in August of 2019. And I played the Opry again for the first time, and I haven't played it since. I haven't been invited back since. Of course, there was a global pandemic. A lot of things have happened. So I'm not suggesting that I'm being left out, but was that something healing for me. And also, I didn't just go out there and do my 2 songs, which is typically what you do as an artist. You go out and do a couple of your hits. Yep. Thank you. A little banter in between. Thanks so much. But I didn't know I was going to do what I did. But what I did was, I think, Shut Up and Drive. And then this thing, unrehearsed, and I'm a pretty good extemporaneous speaker, as are you. But this kind of unrehearsed thing came out of me. And I'll try to sum it up quickly.
You don't have to. We have plenty of time.
Thank you. What I shared with the audience, and you can see the Opry, you played the Opry. It's not like a dark audience and you can't see the faces. Right. It's like a TV show. Right. They're staring at you and you can see every face in the crowd. And it's marvelous. It's one of the things that's so wonderful about the Opry. And what I said was, 30 years ago, I walked onto this stage. 1989, 2019. And I was an unsigned artist, and I didn't know if that would be my last time to ever be on stage. And as I walked off the stage at age 18, back in the day, people had cameras with flash bulbs. And I remembered looking out, and this was what I shared in 2019 with the crowd. I said, I remembered as I walked off stage and walked toward the stars who were side stage, and Mr. Acuff he had just taken the mic back from me. And I walked off stage and I thought to myself, and I knew that I was a gay person. And I said this I knew that I was a lesbian, and that if I were ever found out, I would most certainly never have a chance to make records and be invited back to the Grand Ole Opry stage. And as I walked off, I remembered taking my own photo in my mind of the audience. And I waved like I'd seen all of the Opry stars. I was emulating that wave that they do. And I remembered thinking, if I never get to come back, I have this picture. And it delights me 30 years later that I'm standing in front of you. And I thought I was coming back to heal that 18-year-old, those fears. But what I realized is I came back tonight to be on the stage because I love the Grand Ole Opry. And the 40-plus-year-old, however I was at that age, I thought I was coming back for the 18-year-old me. but I'm actually here for the 49-year-old me who's still in love with the Grand Ole Opry.
Wow.
And as I shared that, I watched people who'd been clapping, who'd seen me on the Opry many, many times. And the minute I said lesbian, their arms dropped. And the more I talked, some, not all, some arms crossed. And I remember pushing through, and some people like got on their feet. Like it was a true bifurcated audience. And I remember pushing through that 18-year-old thing that you don't break the rules at the opera. You don't break the rules in country music. I remember thinking, I already broke the rules. I rewrote new rules. And as I walked off the stage, my band, many of whom had been with me my entire career, like just grabbed me and hugged me. And I remember Eric Halbig saying to me, how hard was that? And I said, it was pretty tense. And he said, do you realize what you did in those few minutes on stage? And I said, like what? And he said, because that guy that crossed his arms and those people who crossed their arms and stopped clapping, they had to look around at others who were standing and ask themselves, I guess I'm the asshole.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, he said, is progress.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Wow. You never told me that story. That's fantastic.